Hello and welcome. In this session, we will learn about repetition structure. This session can be found in page 41 of your programming manual. So first and foremost, why do we need to learn repetition structure in programming? Uh, Many problems requires repetition capability in which the same calculations or sequence of instruction is repeated but using different sets of data. A good example of this one is, let's say for example, you are continually checking for an input of your user, or you want to calculate for a running total, or if you are going to show other mathematical sequence. All of these examples requires a repetition structure. Now, in the programming manual, there are three types of repetitional structure. And these are while, do while, and for loop. In this session, we will focus more on the while loop as a introductory learning on repetitional structure. Now, to start off, we must learn how to write the while statement in a or the syntax of a while statement. So when you are going to use a while, you usually start with this and follow up with a brace. Then usually inside of this is your statement. Now, uh, this is what we call your repetition statement. So let me uh, state this one here. So this is your repetition statement. So again, repetition statement, you can make use of, there are three tools that you can use. You can use while, you can use do while, and you can use the for loop. Now, uh, in in repetition structure, there are four things that you are going to write or is required for you to place. First and foremost, uh, as I mentioned, is the repetition statement. So the repetition statement looks like this. While, again, brace, then followed by your compound statement. So in the compound statement, this is where the statement that you want to repeat. Now, the second one is the condition. So this is the condition. So you are going to place your condition here. No? So again, condition is basically similar to your in if else, the if expression. So if the condition here is true, therefore it will execute this statement, which is found in your compound statement. Okay. So let's say, for example, if I have here, let's say cout uh, re, uh, statement. Now this statement will have an infinite loop, and we'll go into that uh, in details. Why is it in infinite loop? Okay. So if I run this one, since this statement is true, it will keep on repeating the statement. That is why it is an infinite loop. So we can see here, we can see that it's running infinitely. Now, that is the condition. That is one requirement. So again, we have repetition statement, we have the condition. In order for us, so that it will stop in an infinite loop, there should be some sort of an initial value and a value that will stop our looping statement or make the condition false. So here we can say int, let me use int I or int num. Then I will use int num. So this is our initial value. Okay. So we will use that num as a value that will be used in our condition. So we can say num. If num is greater than or equal to 0 or greater to 0 or 10, or let's say example 3, then in this case, since 0, num value is 0, it will always repeat no, this statement because the statement is always true. So to make, then you need to have some sort of a statement that will make this statement false. So usually we can use there is a num plus plus. So num plus plus is what we call a statement that will make the condition false. And, or else, if you don't place this one, uh, you will have an infinite loop. So if we are going to follow through our program, we can say that we initiate the value uh, which is 0, then we test the condition which is 0 greater than 3, which is the statement is true. Then once since it's true, then it will display this, and after that it will go to this one, making the value of 0 to 1. Now take note that uh, num plus plus is just equal to saying num is equals to num plus 1. In which case num value, which is initial value, you just add 1, then you store it back to its original case. So this is just an incrementation of 1 uh, using this num plus plus. Okay, so let me indent this one. Okay, so again, if we go back to the here, we have their 0 initial value, the statement is true, then it goes display this one, then afterwards it makes 0 to 1, goes back to while, checks the condition, and since 1 is still true, therefore it goes back inside, goes back, and then convert or change into 2, goes to here, and since 2 is still true, 2 greater than 3, it goes back to the statement, then display or increments the value to 3, and once it goes back again, 3 greater than 3 is now already false, then therefore it will jump or exit the while statement. So let's try to run this one. So again, we can expect that uh, we have we made a loop that is 3 times. Okay, so we can see there that the statement is repeated 3 times using this code. Again, uh, there are 4 elements that you need to consider in when you are writing repetition uh, structure. The first is the repetition structure that you are going to use, or the repetition statement. In this case, I am using the while. You need to have a condition, you need to have an initial value of your condition, and you have to have some sort of value or equation that makes the statement false. Okay, now in this statement, again, in the program manual, we can see that the while statement is considered as a pretest condition. What does it mean? It means that it tests first the condition before it goes into the statement. Later on, you will discover that do while is the opposite of while. The do while is a post test. It means the statement is executed first, followed by the condition to check whether to repeat or not. So in this case, this a while loop is a pretest condition. Now, this example is an example of a what we call a fixed loop. Why do you call it a fixed loop? Because we can fix the loop, or we can create how many loops you want in this statement. So let's say, for example, if I want 10 loops, I just change that one to 10. And of course, if I run that one, I have 10 repetition. So again, this one is considered as a fixed loop. No? Fixed loop is siya. Now, there are times that another example there is the variable, the loop will be based on the variable itself. No? So a good example there, let's say for example, I have there a running total. Let's say a is equals to a plus 10. No. Then uh, then I can say a if it reaches 100, since it's a running, so since we base it by this equation, we can say that by the way, we need to set it up to a. Then we have to have initial value of a by 0. So it means that in this case, it only stops when the value reaches a specific point. No? So again, the looping statement will only stop once the condition is met. So that's another type of while statement. So if we run this, we can see here, again, it's running 10 times. We can set it up. Let's say, for example, I will just make it to 9. We can say that it will only stop, no, not 9. Let's say, for example, 5. How many times will it loop? So 20 times, because of the running total that we made. Now, we can also have, let's say, for example, cin, uh, let's say a, we place that value to a. Then next we have there, the value of a now becomes the a, uh, the total is now equals to a plus the total plus the input value of a. So we can have it like this. Then instead of having it at a total, then let's say if it reach max, we can create the value max here. Maxim, let's just make it maxim because it's max is already used. Maxim. So let's say, for example, our maximum is 80. If we run this one, and let's say running total, then we are going to display it, display the total for every enter that we have. So if we run this, oops, maxim, we did not uh, place at maxim. Okay, so if we run this one, maxim, what's the problem? Maxim total maxim 80. Where's structure? Let me check first. What's the error? So our error is total is not declared. So we can say total. So total we can say equals to 0. So we initiate the value to 0. So if we run this one, so we can see that we need to input something because of this cin value. So let's say, for example, 12. The running total is still 12. I forgot to place their space. Anyways, Let's run so another one, 4. So it's still 16. It will the loop still continues because it's not yet reached its repetition. But once it reaches more than 80, then that's the time the repetition stops. Okay, let's try that again. And let's try to follow through our code. So in this case, by the way, let me just uh, adjust this one. Make a statement. Please input a value. Okay, so I think that's much clearer. Then so that we have space, we can have some backslash n here. So let's run it again. So here we can say, let's say 12. So the running total is still 12. We need 4. So the repetition again will not stop. So again, it goes here. Check if the total is equivalent or greater than maximum. Then if not, then still it continues repeating. So this is different from the previous example, which is fixed count. So in the fixed count, we set it to a specific number of loops, but in this case, the loop will now depend on your result of the total. So let's continue. So let's say, for example, 4, that's running total is still 20. We have there 40, running total is 20. Once we reach 21, then that's the time our running total will stop. Okay, so that is how the program looks like when you are going to make use of the while. And again, what is the 4 elements that is required? First and foremost, you need the repetition statement itself. Okay, then this second one is the initial value. You need to have initial values such as this. Then the third one is the condition. Without this condition, you will have an infinite loop. And of course, the last one is there should be something that will make the statement false so that it will exit the loop. Okay, so next up, we will learn another type of looping statement, and the looping statement will be do while.